Okay, time for a thing that I hate. Okay, so we are going to steer into some dicey waters here. I'm about to criticize an episode of the TV show The Last of Us. So I'm going to say right up front, HBO's The Last of Us, right? This is the one that stars Pedro Pascal, and it's really well produced, written by Craig Mazin, who's a super talented guy. He's the one who is behind Chernobyl. Okay, so first, the things about this series that are good. And again, preface, I've never played the game. So don't care about the game. Don't care about how true it is to the game. There are lots of gamers out there. You want to watch their videos on the correlation between the game and the show. That's fine. I'm just watching it as a piece of pure TV entertainment. Okay, I'm coming from, I don't care what's canon. I don't care what's not canon. Just coming at it from the view of a TV viewer. So I'm just going to say that right up front. That is not my particular purview. I don't play video games because I'm not a child. I know. I'm just joking. Lots of good people play video games. Okay, in any case, including Andrew Klavan, who's a mediocre person. Anyway, The Last of Us is for those who haven't seen it, it is a zombie show. Okay, it's a show about a zombie apocalypse that essentially arises because fungi go viral, essentially, and take over people's brains and turn them into zombies. That is the premise of the show. And it's really well produced, and it's beautifully shot, and it's really well scripted, and all the rest. So the first two episodes are about Pedro Pascal finding, again, some of this is sort of hackneyed trope, but he is introduced to the other main character, who is a young girl. The young girl is, for some reason, immune to the zombie virus. And so the question is, can he get her to a place where presumably they are going to try to manufacture a cure from her? Right? That's where the show is going, I would assume, because any other place doesn't make any sense. So it is this character, Joel, and this character, Ellie, and they are navigating the zombie apocalypse. And then we get to, so that's the first couple episodes. And they're good. They're really compelling. Again, really well made, really well written. And then we get to episode 3. And this, according to the media, is the single greatest episode of television that has ever been. If you read the headlines on episode 3, this is the most important thing that has ever happened in the history of television. CNN, The Last of Us, just made an early claim to one of the best TV episodes of 2023. The Last of Us viewership soars 12% to a new series high with heartbreaking episode 3. It's historic. It's important. Okay, guys, it's historic and important. Now, why is it historic and important? It's historic and important because it's about two gay dudes. That's why. So the essential plot of this episode, which is the problem with this episode, and again, you want to make Brokeback Zombie Farm or whatever, fine. But the problem with this episode is that it absolutely does not advance the plot in any way and actually has no consequences. So the entire plot of the episode is that Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman, but he actually plays Ron Swanson, but Ron Swanson who likes to nail dudes. So Ron Swanson, a libertarian who hates the government and lives in his basement and is a prepper, but also is gay. Ron Swanson, during the zombie apocalypse, he's having himself a grand old time. For some reason, his town is completely not hit by any of the zombies at all. It's like completely left alone. And so he goes out and he gets all of his resources, and then he builds a nice fence around his place, and he sets up all of these booby traps. So if anybody shows up, whether they're raiders, whether they're zombies, they're going to get killed. And then somehow another dude ends up like falling into one of his traps, and they meet and they bang, and they end up becoming a couple. Okay, so you can see it here, right? There's gay Ron Swanson, and it's complete with like sex scenes and the whole thing. And the entire episode has no zombies, no real threat, and it is about two gay dudes who meet and have a relationship in which one grows strawberries for the other, and then they die, but not being killed by zombies or under threat. One dies, he gets cancer, and he decides to essentially euthanasia himself. And gay Ron Swanson decides that he is also going to commit suicide at the same time because Romeo and Juliet, or Romeo and Romeo in this particular case. Get to more on that in just 1 second. First, speaking of rough financial situations, a lot of people have had to take out credit cards because obviously the bills are racking up. The problem is if you let those credit card bills sit, then you get those high interest rates. The high interest rates will just break you. You get behind the 8 ball on a credit card bill and you're done. This is why you need Lightstream. Americans' total credit card balance was $925 billion in the third quarter of 2022. That is a $38 billion jump from the first quarter of 2022. The average APR for all credit cards is almost 20%. As Americans, we need to take control of your credit card debt. The best way to do that is Lightstream. They will give you a credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream. It can help you pay off your credit cards and lock in that low fixed interest rate. Rates start at 7.99% APR with auto pay and excellent credit. The rate is fixed. It's not going to increase over the life of the loan. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000 without any fees. And you can get your money as soon as the day you apply. Because if you've got good credit, there's no reason why you should get behind the 8-ball on your outstanding credit card bill. Just for my listeners, apply now, get a special interest rate discount, save even more. The only way to get that discount is go to lightstream.com/Shapiro. That's LIGHTSTREAM.com/Shapiro. Subject to credit approval, rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR, include a 0.50% auto pay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Shapiro for more information. Also, by the way, you shouldn't trust most major institutions at this point. They've blown out their institutional credibility. That actually includes things all the way down to your internet service provider. Those people are looking at your data, and they are using your data in order to make money off of you. And then meanwhile, they're very often suppressing your point of view. This is one reason you should be using ExpressVPN the way that I use ExpressVPN. It's important to have a VPN to protect your online privacy, but choosing a VPN you trust is equally as important. ExpressVPN is the best VPN on the market, and here's why. ExpressVPN does not log your online activity to sell it off to advertisers. Instead, ExpressVPN engineered a brand new VPN protocol that makes user speeds really, really fast. It doesn't slow up my connection. That's a big thing for me. If my connection gets slowed, I'm just not going to use it. ExpressVPN does not slow my connection, and it protects me, and it's really easy to use. So I can click one button, and now it's installed on my device, and I click another button, and now it's running. Protect yourself with VPN I trust. Visit expressvpn.com/Ben right now. Find out how you can get 3 months for free. That's expressvpn.com/Ben. expressvpn.com/Ben to learn more. Again, don't trust all these institutions that say they're protecting you. They are not. expressvpn.com/Ben. Okay, now, here's the problem. It's all really well produced, and it's beautifully shot. Brokeback Zombie Farm. Here's the problem with Brokeback Zombie Farm. 1, it's a zombie show. There are no zombies in this entire episode. Like none. I understand simplistic critique, but there are no zombies in a zombie show. This is worth pointing out. It literally has nothing to do with the plot of the show. This is a show where this show could have this entire episode could have taken place completely without a zombie apocalypse. It just would have been a Showtime romance between two middle-aged gay dudes who get older, one dies of cancer and the other assisted suicides himself. That would have been the entire, it would not have changed one iota of the show. It is completely irrelevant to the story. And one of the reasons that it is completely irrelevant to the story is because there are no stakes. And the reason that there are no stakes is because, again, we are in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. When you're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, one of two issues has to come into play. 1, the threat of the zombies. Or 2, the threat to humanity more broadly. So if you're talking about the threat to humanity more broadly during the zombie apocalypse, what you're talking about is underpopulation, right? You're talking about there are no people. The zombies are going to take over. Humanity is going to be extinct. That is the entire threat in a zombie apocalypse. Correct? Or in an alien invasion movie. Or in any other sort of species-level extinction event movie, like War of the Worlds or something. The question is, how do human beings repopulate? How do they survive? And how do they become successful once again? If you're going to censor an episode like that, what you need to do is you need to have an episode about people who can have babies. Again, there are only 2 issues in a zombie apocalypse. You could have this whole thing, but the whole thing is these 2 dudes in love, but they're fighting off zombies. But they never fight off the zombies. It's not an issue. So, irrelevant. Or you could have them somehow interact with the main characters. They never do. They interact with the main characters for like 30 seconds. They are both dead by the time the main characters arrive to pick up guns. So this entire episode is a sidestep. It has nothing to do with anything. Ellie and Joel could have just stopped by, found the house, picked up guns, and gone on their merry way, and it would have taken 10 seconds. Instead, you get an entire hour-long digression to do, as I say again, La Caja Falls or whatever this is. Okay, so it's irrelevant. Beyond it being irrelevant, it has no stakes. So you want to have like an interesting conversation about love during the apocalypse? The big issue of love during the apocalypse is, what if you have a baby? What happens if you have a baby? Or should having babies be the purpose here? So let's take another example of a show that did this correctly. So Battlestar Galactica had an episode early on, I think it was season 2, in which one of the questions was underpopulation, right? The fleet is depopulating. And so the question becomes, what do you do about abortion? So President Rosalind, who is a lefty, she decides that she's going to outlaw abortion because if you want humanity to survive, then it turns out that individual autonomy over your body is significantly less important than actually repopulating humanity. So here's Rosalind announcing that she's outlawing abortion, right? Because again, the stakes are whether humanity survives. It is not whether two individuals fall in love in the middle of a farm, not threatened by anyone, which is the story of this particular episode.
Since assuming the presidency, I've made it my mission to maintain the rights and freedoms we so enjoyed prior to the attack. One of these rights has now come into direct conflict with the survival of the species. And I find myself forced to make a very difficult decision. The issue is stark. The fact is that if this civilization is to survive, we must repopulate this fleet. Therefore, I'm issuing an executive order. From this day forward, anyone seeking to interfere with the birth of a child, whether it be the mother or a medical practitioner, shall be subject to criminal penalty.
Okay, so, this is like an actual issue. What do you do during an apocalypse? Do you actually try to preserve humanity or not? Two gay dudes falling in love and then dying of old age is not relevant to that particular conversation. I can say, well, that's not what they wanted to cover on the show. That's not what they were interested in covering on the show. The truth is, it's a much more compelling storyline. I mean, that's the entire plot line of A Quiet Place, right? You have an alien invasion. What do you do when you have a baby? Do you continue to have babies in view of the fact that there's a threat to the children, in view of the fact they're going to have to live difficult and rough lives and all the rest of it, right? But you can say, I see the argument, okay, well, that's not what they wanted to take on in episode 3. So I have a question. What were they seeking to take on in episode 3? What was the major topic that they were seeking to take on? People falling in love during the apocalypse? What are the stakes? We don't know any of these characters, nor are we going to care about them beyond this particular episode, which means that it's basically just a sidetrack. It's a throwaway episode, but it's so important because it has gay people, you see. It's so important. And, the guy who created the video game, of course, is a big lefty. In season 2, apparently, if it mirrors the video games, from what I've been told, it gets very trans and very lesbian and all the rest of it. And that's their prerogative. They're the creators of the show. But all of the talk about how this was like an excellent episode of TV that was wrapped into a broader show is not true. And pretending that it is ignoring kind of the dynamics of the show. So there's my critique of The Last of Us episode 3. I know, I'm not allowed to say that I didn't like it. You have to say you loved it. And you particularly loved the most, the most graphic parts of it. Those are the parts you love the most, right? I mean, because if you don't say that, it means you're a homophobe or something. All I'm saying is that nobody actually paid to see the movie Bros. And when you go to see The Last of Us, what you generally want to see is a zombie apocalypse TV show, not two gay dudes dating while listening to Linda Ronstadt and then dying of old age after growing strawberries. I think that, and frankly, I think everybody who's like, wow, I was super into this. Yeah, I think some of you are lying. I think some of you are in it. Some of you were kind of lying. Alrighty, guys. The rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We will be getting into the Mailbag Plus. Dennis Prager is going to be stopping by. It's a brand new series over at Daily Wire Plus. Become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click the link in the description and join us.